and welcome to Nightmare Stories of the Other Side. Joining us today, we have the Haunted Raven, a photographer and lover of the dead who is particularly drawn to haunted locations. According to him, the departed have countless untold stories that deserve to be shared, and he is on a mission to be their voice. Welcome in, Haunted Raven. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Thank you. Well, for one, thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, you're
I do
welcome.
appreciate it. Well, a little bit about myself, as you have already stated, I am a paranormal investigator, also a event host, which is where I feel like I do a lot of more of my working, or what you could say, like what you feel like your path is meant to be. Because I feel like when I run my events, that's where I really feel like I'm really delivering what I'm supposed to be, and sharing those stories. Not only that, but like you said, I also am a photographer, which, if I'm being honest with you, that's kind of like where it all started for me, which was I just started as just a kid with a camera, you know what I mean? Exploring abandoned locations, taking photos, and my photos ended up, that's what got me kind of recognized a little bit, because a lot of people can kind of see the stories that I try to tell within my photos, which actually makes me super happy because obviously, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So for people to tell me all the time, like, hey, like I see there's a story there within this photo, and it's like, okay, so you're seeing exactly what I'm trying to portray here, which is great. Um, and with those, it opened me up more because I ended up becoming, like, I used to do investigations here and there, but it was nothing like major documented, as like when I was younger, because I'm only 31 right now, so it's not like I have like years and years of experience under my belt. I probably have a good handful of years. A lot of the time where it started was me kind of just being like your normal kid, just going into places and like, hey, can you knock? Can you do this? Not really like knowing what I was doing, but knowing that there was a sense that when you're in those places, you're not alone, you know?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, can you confirm what I'm feeling right now type of stuff. And now, with my photos like getting recognized with it all, it led me into working for an event group and really opening myself up more so to the hauntings and the spirits and everything else. And from there, it actually kind of just took off. It felt like a natural thing for me just to kind of go out there and speak with the dead. I know sometimes some people almost like, how is it? I've had some people describe it as like trying to like put themselves out there, like they feel almost silly like just talking to themselves, like, in like an empty room. But for me, it was almost just like natural. It's just like, hey, I know you're here, can you do something for me to just prove that, and I always joke around like, can you prove to me that I'm not crazy? Like, let's start there, right? um and from there, it's just developed into this more trying to test different theories out, doing things like that to really try to see if what we're dealing with, is paranormal. Which I do a lot of things more, I believe more in the spiritual side of it versus scientific. Um, but I know that I do a lot of things scientific so we can kind of debunk it. Because I don't want, especially with my events, right? Like, I don't want to give the false, like, oh, if we hear a knock, but it's just like, say, if I'm in a house and the house is just settling, it's like, okay, like, I'm not going to feed it into my guests saying, hey, like, that's a ghost. 100%. No, like I try to teach them into doing the right thing, which is trying to figure out, like, okay, like, could that be the house? Let's walk over to where we heard it, stand a certain way on the on the floorboards or whatever, just see if we can recreate whatever the hell we just heard. Because obviously, like, if I'm over here trying to teach about the afterlife, which is what I feel like my purpose is to let people know that they do exist. um and really showing that if we can approach it sometimes in a different way. And a lot of people already do this normally, right? Like the way that I investigate, there's so many other people that do it too. Like I'm not the only one. I'm not saying that I'm anybody special or anything like that. Because a lot of people go into it in respecting them, just talking to them just like they're normal people.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's the way I always approach it is just saying there's sometimes, if I'm walking around a place taking photos, um, like I'll sit down. Just be like, hey, if there's anybody in here, like, how are you doing? I hope your day's going well. Just like talk to them just like they're any other person, you know? And I always feel like when I go about it like that, I get a lot of results. Like a lot of activity. Sometimes people like when I like speaking about my events mainly is people have gotten touched at my events, like their whole jacket tugged even. I was just on a live stream last night, talking about some of the experiences that people have had at my events, and I talked about that one because it's always my favorite one to talk about because this girl, I swear, I thought I was gonna have to rush over to her. I thought she was about to have a heart attack, freaking out, and like she literally was like, "This is what I came for. Like I'm so
Uh,
upset that
Nice.
happened."
was
And
she
I
a
was like, okay, so you're not about to die. Like you were good here. I wanted to make sure one, you're not gonna just take off running. Two, that you're not gonna like hyperventilate onto the floor for we're gonna have to call you like an ambulance or something. But she was like, she screamed, but then she was so hyped about it, and it's like that's what I aim for is experiences like that, like
was
something
she a
that
believer before that?
She never really said. She just said that she was came looking for experience. So in
Yeah,
that, I might assume that she was curious to see if this thing or this like could be real.
yeah,
Because again, she said like this is what I came here looking for. And
sure.
I've had people, believe it or not, I've had people come to my events like, have you ever seen somebody like get thrown against a wall? And I'm like, if you came here looking for that, I can almost guarantee you're not going to be happy or satisfied with this event. Like,
Yeah,
I will give you your money back entirely because I know that you just won't be happy. Because that's definitely Hollywood and
yeah,
theatrical,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen here. I mean, you might hear some like I've had it for where things have gotten tossed across the room, things like that, but I've never seen somebody get levitated up off of the ground and then like tossed into like a wall or something. You know what I mean?
like
Yeah.
The Conjuring.
Yeah, and actually, I hosted an event there one time, back with this old event company that I worked for, and that's where what somebody actually asked that, and they were like so hyped to be there to see that, and I'm like, yeah, you're gonna be highly disappointed here. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but yeah, no, that's not gonna happen tonight. I can guarantee you, you know. And I always tell people I can't guarantee you activity, but I can guarantee you that that's not gonna happen,
Yeah,
Mhm.
for
you
sure.
know. So.
And for
Imagine
something
the
like that to happen, you got to really be asking for it.
I I mean, I would like to know what buttons you got to push for something like
Yeah,
that to
yeah,
happen. You know what I mean? Because it's like
I
everybody,
feel.
spirits have their limits with things, but it's still like I'm just like like even me, somebody who knows that like they're here and they're capable of things that we may not even be able to understand, or a lot of
Mhm.
people may not be able to understand. Some of us may have an idea because we've been doing this long enough, but people who don't do this, it's like they don't understand what they can be capable of.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like when that happen, like, I don't know. I just, even with everything that they're capable of, I don't plan to ever see in at least not in my lifetime, that somebody's going to get picked up off of the ground and tossed into something, you know?
Yeah.
But, but yeah.
So for your events that you do, which was the first event that you ever did?
So what started it off for my first events, so I live in Massachusetts, right? So obviously I wanted to kind of do something close for where I'm not going to like blow a whole huge hole in my pocket, you
Yeah.
know? So my first event I did in New York, it was the Shanley Hotel.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and I figured that one that would be easy to do. Reason being is because it's a hotel, right? So automatically thinking from like an event host, business person's point of view, right? Not only do you have the place as a ghost hunt, you get the history tour. Excuse me, sorry. I also included a dinner with it as well, but you also get to sleep there. You know what I mean? So you're not having to overspend. And I got it to like a good enough price for where people, I think, I want to say I ended up selling it for about 150 a person.
That's fair
And
enough.
that was good enough to sell out all of the rooms still, affordable. And that included your dinner with it as well, right? And it made it for where everybody had their own room and still enough to cover the entire place, right? So that's where it's like I try to make these events affordable because one, it's like, hey, like I'm sure times are tough. You know what I mean? Everybody goes
Hmm.
through it. Not everybody has money. I can't tell you how many years I lived like that, and it's like I try to think if I'm a paying customer, what can I do that's going to be affordable for where I can still have fun? And I try to make it for where you're going to get the most out of said price of ticket. Make sense?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Because I feel like just recently, last year my prices were lower, but obviously with everything going up, some of the locations also raised their prices as well. So with that, I obviously, I had to raise mine, but it's like I still try to make it for where it's still affordable for most people. And that's another reason why I offer like deposits as well, because it's like I know a lot of people can't come up with that sum, but they might be able to make payments. You know what I mean? And so that's another reason why I do that because it's like I always try to think if I were in their shoes type of
Mhm.
thing, and I think that's why a lot of people appreciate my events. Because so far, knock on wood, so far I've had a lot of positive reactions from them. Like a lot of people I've had people coming in saying like, "Hey, my best friend, went on one of your things or went on one of your events last year, had a great time. So I want to be, how do I purchase a ticket?" I've had people saying, "Hey, like I've been following you from this place, where you held an event there," and things like that mean the absolute most to me more than
Yep.
anything else because it's like knowing that, and I always say this too in my intros, right, is that I can't guarantee you activity tonight. I can do everything I can to try to get them to trust me and trust you all to come out to try to talk to us, right? But at the end of the day, like if they don't want to speak, they're not going to speak to us.
Yeah.
They don't want to interact and they're not going to interact, right? Um, but if you leave tonight having a good time, then that's all I care about. I want to know that you had a good time, even though like it was a ghost hunt and we didn't catch anything or we didn't have anything happen, knowing that you guys had a good time and still want to come back. Because obviously you understand that, hey, like even though a place is haunted, you're not going to have activity every single night. Like a lot of people end up understanding that, and that's when they end up booking even more events. And it's like, I'm happy to know that you guys are having that good of time that you're wanting to still come back in the chance that we could get activity. But at the end of the day, you're still coming back because you had a good time. Like that's the real reason, you know? And if I can do that, then I feel like my job is done. Make sense?
Sure.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
That's cool.
So
So, what has been your most memorable event you've ever held?
that's tough because I've had some really good ones. I would probably say last year at Indiana State Sanatorium, which I absolutely love that place. So I don't know if you guys have been out to it yet.
Yeah, the two of us have been there. We
You
went
guys, what
there
about you
for
guys?
last July. It was just a 2 or 3 hour day tour. It was just the two of us and another person. Just got to roam around for a couple hours.
Yeah, it's it's a pretty good sized location, and I know that they're doing a lot of work to fix up some of the other buildings. Like the mansion is currently being fixed up and should be
Yep.
done. I do believe sometime this year. And I know that they went ahead and fixed like the roof and I think like the building structure. I could be wrong, but I want to say that they're going about that for the two bungalows. Like you guys that walk there, when you come around and you have the mansion and you have like those two buildings off to the side there that look like little houses.
Yeah.
So those are the bungalows where the doctors actually lived at. Um, and they're also currently trying to fix those ones up as well. So on top of the other buildings that you had access to, you're now about to have access to even more buildings, which is
Nice.
great, you know what I mean? And they've been doing a lot of work up there. Like the roof has been put on, what is it, over the nurses building. Because I
Hmm.
know there was that hole over there, which
Yep.
it's funny because my friend, my friend Addie, we were walking around and she knows that that's like my favorite spot to take photos because it's like the way the light shines through that roof,
Yeah.
through that hole. It always made for like good photos. And she's like, I'm so sorry to warn you, but your favorite spot is about to be closed up here. I'm like, I'm happy to hear that because you guys are getting a new roof, you know. I said, but I'm sad to see my favorite spot go. I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. So she's like, you better take all the photos you want, every angle, make sure you get it all. So it's like, we'll do, you know. But no, but they've been doing a lot of work up there. So, but it's one of my favorite places to go to. And this last year, I do believe the event was in September. I sold it out to like 70 people. I had to cut it off because I only had a certain set of staff, so I want to make sure that we were covered on all ends.
Hmm.
But one, it was memorable because that event sold out so fast. And not only that, but I like there was so many people that were still trying to get tickets. Like my email was flooded, their emails were flooded. So like knowing that this event was very sought after made me feel good. So for me that was already a good sign, right? Because it wasn't my first event there. That was like my second event there.
Uh,
So knowing that made me feel really good. And actually this first one that I'm about to do just sold out just as much. So that made me feel good knowing that okay, like people are really talking about this Indiana event. And last year with the amount of people there, we had such great activity. And I'm talking at least like for my area, because the way that I do my events is like the first beginning of it, you have your history tour, right? And then you have your guided group sessions for where because we get a lot of skeptics on our event. So like those group sessions are really good because I try to have each group session have a different piece of equipment. So like some are gonna have triggers, some are gonna be more communication, you know, some are gonna be more like senses for where you don't use any equipment, you're just listening for things, feeling like watching out for those touches or shadows that you might see, right? So that way everybody can have like some sort of difference or experience, and then also get to know different ways of investigating, right? So during my group sessions, I know that I had a lot of activity in them, and everybody was getting touched. Everybody could hear like the walking. People were hearing, I was watching them step because of the way I do it, right? And you know, like I said, you've been there, so you know how
Yeah.
the nurses station, that's like my favorite spot to go to.
That spot's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for investigating wise, I don't know what kind like I feel like I've definitely built like a connection with them in that spot because I always go there. The activity that I can get to like to come out for them to come out and really show themselves and really, you know, how do I want to say this? Interact with us. Sorry, I was trying to look for the right word. Getting them to come out and interact with us. I always have, so you obviously know there's like the four halls, right, which
Yep.
surround that nurse's station.
Mhm.
And each one of those halls have all the doors in them for the patient's rooms, right? So
Mhm.
for me, what I like to do is I like to separate everybody because I feel like you really need to open up your senses a little bit, right? But if you're crowded around people, you're not really gonna have that like feeling on edge moment, you know? And then you're not really gonna be focusing because you're gonna be with your friends, like kind of like talking on the side a little bit, you know? So I separate everybody. Everybody goes in a doorway, right? And I walk around, I'm always like, I feel like you would be good in this area. And I always end up putting people in like the right places, you know, for the right moments. And I ended up putting people towards the end. You know where the mirror is, all the way down at the end of the hall before you reach like the administration building.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
there's like that bench there at the end of the hall.
Yep.
Mhm.
So I'll put people over there too. I'll put like one person on that bench. And then the doors to the rooms are a little bit farther up. So there's a good distance, especially in the pitch black, right?
Hmm.
There's a good distance, especially being alone down there. I had so many people freaking out. I would always call out to them like, "How are you doing down there? You good?" Oh, I switched spots with my friend. I couldn't handle it because they would hear people walking down that hall. Like that area is really good for like audible sounds, for where you'll hear people like walking. And for them to hear, they're like, no, I hear too much walking. I'm good. I had enough, you know. So my friend really wanted to hear it. We swapped spots, you know. And then over in like this other hall, people were telling me like, no, I hear walking behind me in the room. Like they will literally step out of the room. They'll like shine their flash. Ooh, sorry, one of my photos almost just fell off my wall. I'm just gonna take that real quick. I just recently hung that earlier, so that's why I'm like, okay, clearly I didn't hang it well. But like people would step out of the rooms, shine their light there real quick, and like, okay, like what the hell? Nobody's in here. But I'm here. They're like, I can hear the crunching in the steps, and it's like the whole place just comes to life. And for me, the amount of people having that experience is what I would say is memorable because it was just such a good night. Everybody had such a great time. And even with the amount of people that I had there, because like I said, I sold it out to like 70 people. Nobody said anything about, the what is it? Noise contamination, anything. Because it's such a spread out property. You have different
Mhm.
floors, everything else, you got tunnels. Everybody was able to spread out, not run into each other, and have such a great time because after the group sessions, it's free roam. And at that point I basically say like, all right, now it's time for you guys to be the investigator. I encourage people obviously like to bring their equipment. I've had a lot of people that are new that are like, I have equipment but I don't know how to use it. I tell them bring them, because if I can't figure out how to use it and teach you how to use it, somebody there I'm sure will know how to use this piece of equipment and can help you.
Yeah.
um, and obviously, if you have your own equipment, bring it so that way you can do like your own little go off and do your own little investigations. And those people that don't have any equipment but want to test some things out and see like, I kind of like this and want to get it later on, that's where I end up, letting people, I say rent out, but it's not even really renting out. Because it's all included in the ticket. It doesn't cost any extra for you to rent out my equipment. All I ask for is obviously an ID, some sort of like state ID, driver's ID, because guess what? You're gonna need that back at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
You get your
Yeah.
ID back, I get my piece of equipment back. It's an even trade.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people like that idea. There's some people that will rent out their equipment, which is great. I don't have anything bad to say about that. But people really like it for where it's like, okay, cool. Like I don't have to spend extra money. All I gotta do is give you my ID, which I've had people kind of like forget their ID. They've given me my equipment back, but then they don't ask for their ID, and I end up messaging, "Hey, I have your ID. Like, give me, I'm gonna send it to you just so it look out in the mail for it, and
Yeah.
then I end up getting it to them that way. But yeah, there's been the occasion that people have forgotten. I think that's happened like um once or twice, and that's like it out of the times that I've ran my events. But no, it's always been a good time though. So.
So for at Indiana State, have you ever gotten anything crazy down in the tunnels?
You want me to be honest with you? I'm not a fan of the tunnels. And it's not
Really?
because of the
No,
ghosts. It's not the ghosts, right?
I
It's
don't
not even
like
the fact that it's like
either.
kind of like an enclosed space. It's simply because I have a death fear of spiders, right?
Same here.
And they have these things down there. I don't even think I've seen a spider down there. But what they have is they have these things called a spricket, which is like a cricket and a spider combined. And these fuckers hop. They will jump and they jump a good fucking distance. Have you ever been jumped? Have you ever had anything like that? Well, probably you guys are probably tougher than I am. So, and are fine with spiders. But when it comes to things like that, I don't mess around with that. So, just last year, my good friend Lisa, she was helping me run the event, right? And it was free roam. So everybody was off doing their own thing. And she's like, "Let's go to the tunnels. Let's see what's down there." I'm like, "Do we have to?" And she's like, "Why not?" And I'm like, "Ugh." I'm like, all right, let's go, right? So we go down there and her boyfriend comes down. And while we're going down there, we get to down, we go down so far and we find this like little room that would have been like a maintenance room because you could see all different types of machinery in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
That's right
and there
below the
was like,
nurse's station.
I think so. Is it like right underneath it?
Yeah.
You go through, we started over in the administration building. So like that entry into the tunnels right there,
Yeah.
that's where we started through and just walked all the way to the end. I was fine walking through those tunnels up until we got into that room, which we got into the room with no lights. I wasn't allowed to use my flashlight. So then Lisa ends up finding like this little small entryway and decides she's gonna go explore that. I'm like, you have fun.
So we have
That's
a
too
lot.
small. I
Mhm.
was like, I don't know what the hell's gonna happen, and I'm not trying to get stuck down there or lost because I was like, I've never been down that way. So she's like, well, I'm gonna go see where it goes. And it got to a point where every time I'd holler her name, she wasn't answering. So
Oh,
I was left up there with her boyfriend, and he's like, well, let's go into this room. So I'm like, okay, cool, right? And then all of a sudden I had like this weird feeling. So I'm like, I just flipped on my light and that was the biggest mistake of my life. But I'm so glad that I did. And I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my fucking God. Excuse me if I'm not allowed to cuss on this, but
Yeah, you're good.
um there it was like a breeding ground for these things. And
Mm.
I literally am like, I
Aren't
put
you
my
glad
hood
you're gonna
on
go
and
down
I'm
there in
like,
the water
if
too?
one of these
Mhm.
move, my feet are gonna move so quick and I'm gonna take off running. And like nothing moved. And I told Avery, I was like, don't breathe, don't move fast. I want out of this room. And he's like, why? I'm like, you don't see all these freaking sprockets on the ceilings, on the walls, on the floor. They're everywhere. And it was like I swear, when I say breeding ground, because I don't think ever been surrounded by so many. So then he's like, "Oh, well, they're probably dead." I'm like, "I don't think so." I was like, "I bet you they're fucking alive, dude." I was like, "Uh-uh." So he spits near one, and that motherfucker hopped, and it was this close to me. I screamed and I took off running. I left them down in the tunnels. I was out. It was probably about like
Nice.
4 in the morning, anyways. Um, all the other guests had left. The only guests that were still there were the ones that had already booked their rooms to stay. So I'm like, that's it. I'm going to bed. I'm out. Everybody like, oh my God. Lisa texted me. She's like, she came back out. She's like, did you leave? I was like, fuck you. I say, because I almost got attacked by like 10 sprockets, dude. I said I was out of there. One fucking hopped. I was done. So
Said he
like the
wanted to go down there
tunnels, I
too.
don't I don't do a lot of investigating in them. I'm I'm too worried about looking for sprockets, so I don't have anything jumping on me.
Yeah, I
So,
remember when we were down in the tunnels before we got to that room right under the nurse's station. There's kind of that L there.
mhm.
We had the music box set up there. The
Yeah, we
music
were in
box.
like the corner.
Yeah, so we're in the corner. The music box, kept going off, and then we get like heard water dripping down there. Well, we didn't know what it was at first, but then
Yeah.
we finally figured out it was water. So like, but then we're just standing down there, and then like right above us, this was probably like 5:30 at night. We knew there was nobody else there because the overnight group was coming shortly, and we heard furniture getting drug around above us, and we're like, "What in the hell is that?" So like,
Hmm.
we went up there to look around, but there's, as you know, there's so many rooms up there, we couldn't tell where it was
Yeah,
coming
it's like
from.
there's so much stuff, so you wouldn't even know it was moved.
Huh.
And then I realized later on that when Project Fear was there, when they were down in that tunnel, it was like 2 in the morning. They heard furniture get moved around upstairs too.
I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't experienced something like that in the tunnels, but walking through those halls by the nurse's station, I remember, and actually this was just last year, and I've never experienced this part before, right? Um, I could hear people walking above me, and I'm looking and I'm like waiting to see some sort of an animal or something, right? And there's nothing there. Like there's been parts where like, the ceiling's kind of missing, and I've shined my light, nothing.
Yeah.
But what I found out is that so that building where the nurse's station is at was where the TB wards were. And I want to say it was a men's. I could be wrong, but I want to say that a friend of mine told me it was a men's TB ward, and it was obviously, two levels. So hearing the stuff moving above you, like and like obviously hearing people walking above you and stuff like that would be considered something normal, like residual energy or something like that. Because obviously, between the TB wards, you're gonna have the two floors, and you're gonna have obviously people walking above you
Yeah.
during when it was, running as a TB ward. Um, but obviously now you don't have the second floor above you, so that's why I'm like it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why would I hear walking? And then when I found that, I was like, okay, that makes so much more sense now because where I was going, I was like, it would almost be like somebody's walking on the roof, but who would be doing that? So
Right.
once I found that little part, I'm like, okay, that makes more sense. So if you're talking about if the tunnels part, right, is right over within all of that area,
Yeah.
that would make sense, especially like I said, if it's moving furniture during the time of that, of during the TB time or TB ward time.
Hmm.
But either way, anybody could be moving furniture. I can't tell you how many times I'm sure like the elderly were trying to move their shit around, even back when it was a nursing home, you know.
Yeah.
So, but
So where are some other in the past that you've held events at?
So this year I'm trying to bring a little bit more. And like I said, last year was like my first full year doing it. I've did, like I said before, I've had probably about 2, 3 years of helping another event company, running events, doing all that. Um, but for my own company itself, um, just last year, I have had the pleasure of hosting at a lot of places over in what I would consider like the Midwest area in like Ohio and Indiana. So you have Fairfield County Infirmary, you got Madison Seminary, you have Indiana State Sanatorium, right? So that's definitely three locations I held events at last year. You also have, let's see, where else did I host events? The Hinsdale House. That's
Mm.
always a good one, and I always love going back there. And then I also have I got the pleasure of hosting an event at the Oliver House, which was an honor because they were actually it was like on the brink of getting sold. And nobody really knew what was happening with it. And obviously I was hoping that it wasn't gonna get sold, that they were just gonna let the person that's been running it kind of just have it and continue to run it because at the end of
Hmm.
the day, it's bringing money back into the to a historical home. And Oliver House is great. Like you're talking about intelligent responses, like they had it there. Which you got to think about it too. A lot of these people that own the house of the Olivers, one was I do believe one of the family members was a judge. The other family member, I do believe, was a dentist or doctor. Which is actually the Oliver. It was like the son. His father was a judge, and his son was like a doctor or a dentist person. Um, but you're talking about intelligent people, right? And they were giving intelligent responses. So the woods are actually haunted as well, like the property, the land on it, because it does lie within the Bridgewater Triangle. If you're not from the area or familiar with the area, we have a couple triangles out here, kind of like the Bermuda Triangle, where like
Hmm.
shit happens. So we have the Bennington Triangle up in like Vermont, New Hampshire area. And I think it does come into Mass as well. And then we also have the Bridgewater Triangle that's out by Boston area that connects into, I do believe, like Weymouth area, Middleborough area, and also like Fall River. Um, so with all of that, with the house sitting kind of like in part of it, the woods that have it have weird things that happen. Puckwudgies have been known to be on that property as well, like within the woods. So it's kind of cool. So you have the house to investigate, and you also have the woods. Um, and I remember we tried this experiment, sorry, with Christy, who was the one who was running like allowing people to do the tour. She was like the management of the locations of the caretaker, right? Um, we tried an experiment with her. She went and sat in her car, blindfolded, and she had headphones on, and she was on FaceTime, right? And I was on FaceTime with her in the house, sitting at the dining room table, right? And a couple of us were sitting by I was sitting in the center, and a couple of people were sitting around me, and we were asking her questions, kind of using her as like a human spirit box, right? And we obviously wanted to make sure that she couldn't see, couldn't hear, so she's not hearing or anything. I told her, I was like, whatever comes to your mind, I just want you to say it. I'm just curious to see if anything kind of lines up with what you say, anything that lines up with, what we're asking, right? She led us to a book. Like she was talking about something and then ended up leading us to a book that she was talking about. Has no idea. Like I was confused. But then it ended up, I feel like it like picked up that I was confused, and that's where it ended up leading us over to the library, which if you walk into the house, you have like a gentleman's quarters where they would have their cigars and they would talk about like political things, assuming, right? And then you
Hmm.
have like on each side of the room, you have like this entryway that goes into the dining room, right? And on one side of it, I kind of love this idea, which I love old New England historic homes anyways. But you have it for it's like a little library that you kind of like walk through. So that little space right there is what she kind of like led me into. And we found the book, and it was exactly what she was talking about. It was the craziest experience or experiment that I did. But I was shocked because obviously I was like, um, did this really just happen? Like, did she really just lead us through a book right now? And we're seeing exactly what she was referring to that we were all so confused about. You know what I mean? Like, it's like
Yeah.
one of those experiments that you're just like, huh. It leaves you like hanging. And we had the event was coming to an end because that one was ran from like 6 p.m. to midnight. So that one wasn't as long as some of my other events go. But I absolutely loved the Oliver House simply because you had such intelligent responses. And it's one of those places for where, because I'm also a big person for where I feel like kids should be involved as well. Like they shouldn't grow up terrified of these things,
Yeah.
right? They should be educated with it. And there's so many people that message me and they're like, this is probably a crazy question that you've gotten, right? And they're like, would it be possible that my kid could come? And they're under 16, right? He's like 13, 14. But he's been to so many other investigations. He's super involved. You know what I mean? And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, as long I check with the location owner, obviously, because it's at the end of the day, it is their location. If they don't allow kids under a certain age, I gotta respect that, right? But a lot of the location owners that I've been hosting events at typically allow like they're like kind of like, well, we trust your judgment, right? I've had these kids come in, right, that are say 13. Hell, I've had my stepson come to one. And his mom was like, he's gonna be terrified. He's gonna freak out. He's never gonna want to do this again. That kid was in it. He had like I have a GoPro camera and he borrowed it and he was like showing it around, showing it to like he thought he was like a little YouTuber. It was the funniest thing. But like I found so much enjoyment out of it, watching him do that because knowing like he wasn't afraid made me feel good because it's like that's exactly what I want. And
Oh,
I've
for
he's
sure.
13. So I've also had kids around that age come into these events, and half the time they act better than a lot of the adults do.
Oh yeah.
You know
Well,
what I mean?
well,
So it's like, how old is she?
she's only 11 and she's been
Like almost
to,
12 of them.
yeah, she's gonna be 12 next month, but she's been to so many locations where it's like,
Did that stop recording?
no,
It didn't. Oh, I
no.
saw that and I'm like, it looked like it
Yeah,
was
something just
recording
popped
anymore.
up on the screen. But no, she's been to like so many locations. It's just like, she's better than some of the other ones you see out there. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
into Waverly Hills and the day investigation at Indiana State. She's been to Ashmore and
Yep,
but yeah, and
exactly.
it's like a lot of these locations, like, reach out. It's like, hey, we're planning an investigation here.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter at the time is going to be 12. And like the only places I've only really been said no to are like the prisons.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I
But
feel
yeah,
like I've had some that have said like depending, obviously like 16 with a parent, that's a given, right?
mhm.
But I've had some say like yes to some. Not like super young, obviously, but I feel like I've gotten like I'm talking back when I was working for a different event company. I haven't hosted at any jails yet, but before when I worked with them, like we hosted at jails, sanatoriums, hospitals, anywhere you named it that said they were haunted, right? So I felt like I got more as a no, how even for people 18, because some of the places were bars, so
Mhm.
obviously if you're 18, you can't be in there. So at that point, like you got to be at least 21 to go in. Even like we're not planning to obviously drink anything, but they're like, no, like still you got to be at least
Yeah.
21. There's been some, what is it, like what's it called? I think it's either in Virginia or West Virginia. It's a distillery, but it used to be an old jail. And even that one, they were like, probably not because obviously like we're brewing alcohol here, So there's some locations where it's like, okay, well, obviously, like their reasoning though it makes sense,
Yeah.
but for the most part, like there's certain locations that I'll host at, and even still, like if somebody wanted to say, hey, like I'm gonna go to I want to go to the Hinsdale house, right? And I want to bring like my kid with me. I would probably kind of say like an 8. At least you got to be at least 16 for that one, just because like anything could happen. I've had to bring a lot of dark stuff up from my past out of the blue, so that's why I'm like, you got to be at least 16 for that one because anything could happen at the Hinsdale house. Um, for where other locations, it's like, okay, yeah, like Wildwood, I would say absolutely. You can definitely bring your kid to that. I've even had somebody message me, and this threw me off 1,000%, for where, hey, I have an infant. Is there any way that we could come? And I'm like,
Hmm.
probably not, because a lot of these places, I don't think you want your infant to be bringing
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff in. You know what I mean? And I'm just like if you needed somewhere, like if you're talking about like somebody's gonna stay, like you're renting a room, right? And somebody's gonna stay down in that room with that infant, that's totally fine. That's different. I mean, even so, I'd probably be like, why?
Yeah.
You know, but like as long as you're not, because like the commercial building obviously is clean, It's very well, it's not like walking through one of the hallways at Indiana.
Yeah.
For where, and if you have this child with you and you're holding it, what if you bump into something and you trip or
Yep.
you fall? Because it's not during the daytime, it's at night. And if you don't have a flashlight, you're only going off of whatever light that, other people are using for their flashlights or whatever the case may be. So that's why I always say like safety first. But for the most part, I kind of make a judgment call. I
Yeah.
wouldn't just let anybody bring their kid in, but it's like a lot of people that do reach out to me, I can kind of feel like, okay, like I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
And I always tell people like don't make them go past, like don't push them past their limits. Don't
Hmm.
force them to stay up there because you want to stay up there. Like if they had enough, at least listen to the kid type of thing. And
Oh
everybody's
yeah.
usually good about that. Half the time it's always the kids that want to go longer than the adults. The adults are ready to call and the kid's like, no, I want to keep going. Like, let's go to this area. Let's go to here. Like, that's what my son was doing, and my girlfriend was like, no, like, I want to go to bed. We're gonna go to bed. Drew has to finish running his event. And he's like, Mom, I'm a big boy now. You have to let me go. And she even the next morning, she's like, he had a talk with me. This little kid had a talk. I had to be put in my place because he was telling me he's old enough to be going on all these events with you now. And I kid you not, this kid has been asking me literally just the other day, when are we going on our next investigation? The weather's getting nice. Where can
Uh,
where can I go? So I'm trying to find a nice little spot for where it's not going to be terrifying for him. It'll be
Yep.
like a good investigation for him, and try to work on filming with him and created like his own little like YouTube video
Yeah.
from it all. So trying to get it all in the works, but trying to find the right location for it at the moment
Yep.
mhm.
during the right time. He's wanting to go like next month. He's already saying, "Well, you got something going on in April." I'm like, "Well, your mom's not going to that event, so you can't go, and you got school." So I'm like, "It's got to be during the summertime when you don't have school anymore."
Yeah.
But he's like ready to go. Well, you're going here. I want to go. Let me go. I'll pack my bags and be in the car.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's only been two times that we've had to leave early because of her. And
hmm
funny story just came out of one of them.
hmm
So my friend Tina from Journey in the Haunted, the last time we were at the Boyd house with her, it was like 2:30 in the morning. Her and her husband are upstairs sleeping in the bed. Well, I was sleeping in one of the chairs. She was sleeping next to me, or not sleeping.
I was on
But
TikTok.
I could sense her arm
Stop doing that. I'm getting sick
reaching
of that.
across to me. And then we heard something running around on the wood floors upstairs, which, it's kind of weird. It's 2:30 in the morning. Everybody's sleeping. Chad's already gone.
Yep.
So we determined it was the spirit of the cat. But I'm like, I'm not going to go up there and check. It's 2:30 in the morning. She wanted to leave. So we got up and left. And I swear I had told Tina that we left in the middle of the night. Well, long story short, I never did. and she had to find out through watching one of her other podcasts with another team. So now she says payback is coming for leaving her in the middle of the night.
Uh,
Oh, Drew, your
The
sound is
audio
gone.
isn't working anymore.
Nope, nothing yet.
I think it's on.
Nope.
No.
Oh, what's going on? Are you? Nothing yet.
What the heck? It's not working.
I have no idea what's going on. Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
No?
No.
What is going on? Still nothing. Hmm.
Can you hear me now?
Now
Yeah.
we can hear you.
So I disconnected that one then. Okay.
Okay.
Weird.
But yeah, so as I was saying, she had to find out through another podcast that we left in the middle of the night.
Oof.
And she goes, just so you know, at some point in time, I will get some revenge. I'm like,
Is that
all right.
spooky?
I'm like, fair enough.
Is that spooky?
Karma's a wonderful woman. I've
Yeah.
learned to try to be friends with her
But
because I have a lot of payback moments.
but
My girlfriend told me, she's like, I swear to God, Drew, if you ever bring me into a location and you leave me in there, because she knows that sometimes there's some moments where my feet will move faster than my thoughts. It's just a reaction, you know? And she's like, let me tell you something. If you move and you leave me, I'm gonna trip your ass on the way of you trying to leave me, and it's gonna be hell on earth for you afterwards. I'm like, all right. Like there was a moment actually right up where I'm at. Like this is like my office space, right? And my girlfriend was up here. We are coming up to grab like a tote or something, and I had seen something because this area is haunted. I have quite between me going to places and things tagging along with me, and I brought objects home. I've bought things that are haunted. So, this whole place is haunted thanks to me. I mean, it might have been had something here prior, but like I've definitely increased the activity. Um, and I kind of see things that some people don't always see. And I remember because at one point I was sleeping over on this side, so I have my bed still over there, right? And I remember we're walking over and I saw something crouched on my bed, head tilted, just staring at me. And it was definitely a woman, cream colored dress or gown. I'm not really sure. Something that I've never seen up here. Like I've seen other things, especially from my own haunted objects. So like I know like the usual. But this was different. This is new. And my mom she's like on this binge right now of going to these like old places, like antique stores and things like this and buying things. And I'm like, and one time I told her, I was like, I feel like you brought something home. And that was the night that something happened. And it was this thing that happened. I ran down these steps and I yelled at her. I was like, you brought something home. I don't know what it was, but you better clean that thing or cleanse it or something before you put it in this house again. Um, but when I saw it, just as just like a reactive response, I pushed my girlfriend towards it. And I was about to take off. And for that, she turned around and she's a Puerto Rican woman. She called me a pendejo, every name in the book. She was like, pendejo, you left me, you pushed me. What the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but just know I initially had good intentions.
Uh,
When you just turn around and you see something standing at you, staring, and it's like terrifying, it terrifies you, you just react. And I was like, I'm so sorry that you were the guard. You were my body shield. I'm sorry that it
yeah,
was you, but just know that I got away, but I'm thinking of you. And she's like, you fucking asshole. And I was like,
nice.
oh. Yeah, so
uh,
she definitely got me good back. I think I slept in the couch for like a good week for that one. So,
But I know
so
that Tina, she's really good people, and I've known her for a couple years. And I have a feeling I know when the payback is coming, and it's not just going to be towards me. And
Hey, I've made peace with Tina.
another
and I'm going to say the payback is not coming at the investigation this weekend.
uh,
There's another investigation Tina will be joining us at some point in time this year. And
I
that's
don't know about this.
and that's when our payback is going to come.
Your payback.
You'll find out, but you'll
Not
find out
when.
when we get to that location when you see Tina. I'm not telling you where it is.
I have a pretty good idea of where it is.
I'm not telling you. So I don't know what that is going to be, but I'm going to be on my toes around here for a while.
Yeah, I would be. I would be.
I've made peace with her.
Since then,
Just when you think you made peace, that's where they're gonna get you the most.
yeah.
I'll work on it.
Oh, and just put it this way: at this location that Tina's joining us at, that's not the Walnut House. She has an experiment she wants to do with you.
With me?
You and her a double Estes session,
Oh,
but that's not the payback.
damn it.
Full of excitement for a second.
uh,
I hope she tortures you.
Well, we'll see. Maybe I can have her pawn off my punishment on Grady when they're at Malvern for 2 days. He deserves it more than I do.
Mm.
So yeah, what other I think we might have touched on it. What other events do you have coming up this year? Did you say?
So at the moment, I'm working on a few others. I do have a lot going on this year though as well. So like I'm trying to kind of balance it all. I have a lot of family events that are going on. That I basically am kind of like basing my events around. Plus obviously there's cons. And then I have a big trip at the end of the year, end of October, beginning of November, that I have as well. So, but um. I am hosting at Indiana State Sanatorium, Madison Seminary, and I'm also hosting at Fairfield County Infirmary. So at the moment, I have ISS, Fairfield County Infirmary, and then I have Madison Seminary, and then right after that, I'll be at the Penhurst Paracon. And I do believe it's like the next weekend. I'll be at the Hinsdale House, May 30th. And then I do believe I'm going to be also filming at places as well. I'm taking a break on actually dropping videos because I'm about to get an event season and I'm going to have my hands full with all of that. But I am still filming at places on the side, not really saying where until obviously fall time is when I'll probably start dropping episodes again. But this time obviously have a lot more. So I think I have about a good 5 or 6 places planned already on top of planning more. Um, so there's obviously that's going to be kind of like in between different places. And then I have in August again, that's kind of like starting back up with events. I feel like June and July, I don't really have events going on, which is why, like I said, I'm trying to get a little bit more, just to kind of put in between places.
Mm-hmm.
But starting backing up in August, I have ISS at the beginning of the month. I have another event actually that I'm not saying just yet. I'm gonna wait and keep that suspension building up or suspense building up a little bit more. But I am super excited to actually be able to host an event at this location because they only allow set amount of events throughout the year. And I do believe they just opened back up for paranormal. I remember a couple of years ago, I went there to take photos for a different event for the other event group that I was working for. And walking through, it's it's a good location. I remember they had this doll there that they got from Dollar General. Believe it or not, I'm like, I need to go down to Dollar General because this toy was like $20 and it was one of the best fucking trigger objects I've ever seen.
Hmm.
It was motion censored, which is what threw. I didn't like it. It's good for like that creepy effect because obviously, it's has that little giggle because it's a baby, so it has like giggles,
Okay.
baby. Get like a little rattle, and it's like being in the pitch black in the middle of the night, hearing that, it's like not something you want to
Yeah.
hear. You know what I mean?
Uh,
So, and at first, right, it was like they showed it to us and like, so careful. And I'm like, haha, okay, right. And then they're like, all right, well, we'll let you, do your photos and stuff. I assumed they were still over there. So I thought they were fucking with me for a little bit because I was like, I'm walking through, I'm taking my shots, doing the photos, and I hear the baby go off, and I stop. I remember I froze. I like shot my camera up right here, and I'm like, what the hell was that? Fucking baby. I'm like, ha ha. I was like, you guys are so freaking funny. I'm like, I know you guys are over by that doll, and I'm like, I'm looking, and I don't see anybody over there. I'm like, motherfuckers are hiding. Like, I know it's you guys. And then I hear like this talking, and I'm like, the fuck? And then like started walking a little bit, it became clearer. So I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm not hearing shit, right? And that's like I heard everybody talking. They were all outside smoking a cigarette.
Hmm.
oh, jeez.
So I'm like, no fucking way. So I went back through. I actually have a video of it on my personal Facebook. But I remember I sat my phone up on videotape because I'm like, this thing is gonna go off again, right? So I went through acting like, minding my own business, taking a photo, acting like that thing's like it's not gonna go off. I have no idea about it. And it went off again and I captured it. I remember poking my head out of the cell and I came back. It is a jailhouse. I know I just kind of gave that little snippet away, but I poked my head out of the cell and I'm like, what is there? And I look back, I'm like, okay, I think I captured it. And then I played it back, and in the video, you hear the thing go off, but there's nobody over there. Such a
Interesting.
while. So I'm like, this place is gonna be good. And I don't know what happened if they ended up closing down like the paranormal side of things, and they just kept running, their day tours and things like that through. It's not a very big place. But I feel like because not a lot of people, how like when you go to places that are really big and really well known, like so for like Waverly
Yeah.
or Penhurst, right? There's almost is like there's activity, but I feel like when you go to like those smaller locations, ones that not a lot of people know about or really go through
Hmm.
the investigate, you get so much more activity. It's like they're ready to talk. They're like, holy shit, people can hear us, they can understand us now. Like they're ready to shoot the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like in that location, I feel like is like one of those locations. That's why I was so surprised. And like I like there was moments in there like your hair on the back of your neck just stands up and you just know that there's something else in there with you. So I'm super excited about that location and it's actually gonna happen on August 16th. So I already have the date for it. It's already set in stone. I'm just waiting for it to get a little bit closer before I start
Yeah.
announcing it. Just like I do with all my other events. I wait till it's a good couple months beforehand, then I start announcing and start selling tickets. I give it a good time frame to try to get a lot of tickets sold for it. If not, obviously the main goal is to get it sold out, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I do have that one coming up in August. Otherwise, I do believe I have the Hinsdale House at the end of August. And then what else do I have? I actually think that's it. So obviously like again, another reason why I'm trying to find other places to kind of like fit in for like a lot of these empty spots. But I want my whole goal like I have locations that I will always host events at, right? But there's obviously I want to always introduce new locations,
Yeah.
at different places so people can really have that different experience. Um, so again, and also I'm always trying to find locations that are closer to home because a lot of the locations that I host at are over in the Midwest, like I
Yeah.
said, in Ohio and Indiana area. Um, but I am trying to get some dates closer to home at a couple of locations. Last night in my live, somebody gave me a couple locations here in Mass that one of them I always forget about. And then there was another one that I recently just found out about that's in Mass, and I'm like, this one sounds incredible. Why have I not known about this? And it's literally like within my own state. And
Hmm.
it's like there is so much up here that I could do for events for. Um, but I always like I think it's because I've always traveled outside of like where I live. So I'd always forget about the places that are close to home. But there are a couple places that I am trying to. There's one place in Mass that's actually over in Western Mass area that I'm trying to get at least like one event for. Because I'm always like I don't need to have multiple dates. If I can just have one event there to say that I was able to host an event there,
Yeah.
I'm satisfied with that. You know what I mean? Because it's still enough for people to want to go get the experience there because there could be people there that are dying to go to this one location, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and if I can provide that for people, absolutely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But as of right now, that's kind of like where I'm standing at with events. So there might be more to come. I know next year, I don't think I'll have as much going on like in my personal life as far as like family vacations, competitions, things like
Yeah.
that. So next year I'll be able to actually do a whole lot more events, and I'm hoping to try to get one at least every month. So I'm
Nice.
hoping for two every month, but I'll be satisfied with at least one every month starting, obviously we always say jokingly, event time is starting because people there's some people that are booking for the winter time, but most people really start, getting that itch around springtime to really
Yeah,
go
for
out.
sure.
Springtime is that time where event season kind of starts up all the way obviously until winter time.
Yeah.
So next year I definitely plan on getting more places, especially new locations. So I have plans.
All
Just
right. Sounds
the
good.
right time for them all, you know.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, with that, I will turn it over to Laurel for our ending of the podcast. He always has a little something for you to give an opportunity for.
okay, absolutely. Let's go.
So this is your chance to plug any socials. You want us to, well, I'll add them down in the description if I can find them.
Hmm.
Point us in the direction of your next event, anywhere you want people to look.
Okay. So, all of my shows, if I can speak. So, all of my socials, you will find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I have a website as well. And then all this, I also have this other site that I sell merch on. So if anybody wants to get a shirt, shirts are great quality. I get a lot of good feedback on like the way they feel and everything else. I just recently bought my newest logo, or sorry, not my newest logo, but my newest shirt that I designed, and the hoodie quality was phenomenal. It's one of those like roomy hoodies, but it's also like that heavy material too. So you can tell it's good quality. So you can find me on socials under The Haunted Raven. That would be The Haunted Raven for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and also YouTube. My website is www.hauntedraven.com. And my merch is also tagged into my website, but it's also on Bonfire under The Haunted Raven. So it'd be www.bonfire.com/The Haunted Raven. Um, let's see, what else? I think that's it. That's pretty much everywhere that you'll find me. So
All right. Sounds good.
perfect.
All right. Well, I think that is all I have. I don't know if Laurel or Chad have anything else.
I'm fine.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you for being on.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you guys for having me. I appreciate
Yes.
it.
yeah.
So always happy to take some time out and, speak to anybody that wants to interview or talk or whatever the case may be. So,
All right. Sounds great.
all right, guys, thanks
All
for
right.
having me on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
All right. Bye.
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 This has been Nightmare Stories of the Other Side, a production of Nightmare Explorers.